Beware the Wildcats in their house. Enter the Red Hot Sooners, and if you don't believe the hype, ask the Longhorns. Speaking of Texas, Mac makes a major decision heading into Boulder.
How y'all feel?
The Quack Attack hits the road to face the Trojans. Rudy and the Tigers invade the Swamp. A big-time shootout in the Big Ten? Yep, just ask Northwestern and Purdue. Game Day live from Manhattan next.
Presented by Discover Car, proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
Well, the Big Apple has New Year's Eve in Times Square. The Little Apple has a Kansas State football Saturday in KSU Stadium. This was the scene earlier this morning. They stormed the gates, trying to break College Game Day's all-time attendance record. Set here, broken by Virginia Tech, and they're giving it a run today. On a beautiful morning for college football in October in Manhattan, Kansas. This place is loud. There's a few imposters here, and they are ready to vent. 25 straight home wins for the Wildcats in this place. Very few of them have been close. Welcome to Game Day, Chris Fowler, the mayor of Manhattan, Lee Corso, in a proud purple tie. And, of course, over there is Kirk Herbstreit. Not the mayor.
Say nothing.
You guys ready for the start of the second half of the college football season? 5 of the 7 unbeatens are in action today. 2 of them, of course, are right here. It really is a day of discovery in this stadium for both these teams who have just devastated their opponents. They are 1-2 in scoring offense. But neither team has really been tested, and neither team has tasted the kind of adversity in the ballgame they could today. They have both beat up on talented conference teams, but they haven't gotten full credit. Oklahoma's win over Texas was so big that folks are questioning, is Texas really any good? And Kansas State always has the burden of proof in October because the September schedule is frankly not that tough. The Sooners have to show they've grown up. Are they ready for this? 2-5 away from home last year. 4 OU coaches, however, have experienced success in this stadium as assistants to Bill Snyder. Many Wildcats were recruited and coached by him, and that is part of the intrigue today.
When I was being recruited here, some of the coaches that are at OU, they were here, and they helped to get me here, and I feel that it's going to be a big game knowing that they had left for some reasons that I don't know about, but it's going to be big.
Mainly, I think the two communities have made it a rivalry. My dad is a Sooner grad, and he listens to the sports talk radio a lot, and he says that that they feel like it's a rivalry down there, and a lot of the people on campus that I talk to in this community feel it's a rivalry. So I think supporting communities have made it more of a rivalry than anything.
Oh, you bet. That is something that's passed down by generations around here. A strong dislike for Oklahoma, and it goes back to an 0-33-1 skid against them in the bad old days. Plenty of venom from these stands for those Sooners today. You can count on it. Back to the coaching saga. Bill Snyder has beaten 3 different Oklahoma head coaches in a current 5-game series winning streak. Today would be the sweetest. Publicly painted as a very rosy relationship between the 2 coaching staffs. There is plenty of mutual admiration, and both sides have been very classy about it. But there is also some tension, some friction, and that fuels a very competitive atmosphere on the opposing sidelines today.
What do you think the greeting's going to be like when you go in there?
No, I'm not bothered to worry about it or think about it. To me, it has nothing to do with the football game. That'll be decided by the players on the field between the lines, and that's all that matters to me is the way our players play and the way they're prepared.
There's no bad blood on my part, and I know that Coach Snyder has no bad blood for me. I left in good terms, and he knows that it was easily the most difficult decision I've ever had to make in my young coaching career.
That is the public spin on it. You hear Brett Venables was being booed during that soundbite. It was a player and a coach here. What we have really, guys, is a couple of turnaround jobs. One has been pretty quick and is still in the early stages at Oklahoma, and one has been long-term and is really almost miraculous by Bill Snyder.
Well, Chris, one thing, Kansas State's football team takes its mental fitness and its mental edge directly from their head football coach, Bill Snyder. They are tough. They are conservative. They are mentally tough. They're cool, but they're passionate, and they win. Here's one stat that tells you how good a football coach Bill Snyder is. Since 1934 and Pappy Waldorf, 14 coaches have come into Kansas State, and all of them have left with a losing record. Bill Snyder has done the greatest job in the history of college football of turning around a program that was not good to a run as a consistent winner. Kirk Herbstreit, Bill Snyder is a Hall of Fame football coach.
You're right. He's done a miraculous job here, and he's been able to do it with talent out there. And as I said earlier, it's really not the top 25 recruiting class. Look at what Bob Stoops has done at Oklahoma. When he came into Norman, he found a football team that wasn't dedicated to the weight room. So what he did is when he came in from the University of Florida, he brought the strength and conditioning coach, Jerry Schmidt, and he brought that work ethic, and they dedicated themselves in the offseason. So it's a different team. They believe in the system, and now that they've had some success on the field, they're beginning to become confident. Now, they haven't been tested the way they've been tested. They will be tested today, but they're a young team that's believing to believe in themselves and becoming very, very confident.
Well, that's been the sermon. Last night to us, Bob Stoops was preaching maturity and toughness. He believes his team's already proven it's legit by blowing out Texas, but for both teams, beginning today, it begins to get a lot tougher. These are the 7 unbeaten teams ranked by opponents' winning percentage, the remaining opponents, because obviously K-State has had a soft schedule, but look how tough it is from here on out for both the Wildcats and the Sooners. Nebraska down there, keep in mind, they have to play both of these teams on the road. Norman and then Manhattan. Much more in this game coming up. Meanwhile, today in the Swamp, the two teams that staggered out of Starkville a week apart, beaten and embarrassed. But of course, in the SEC 2000, a loss does not for a second knock you out of the race. Auburn has to rediscover its offense, get Rudy Johnson going, maybe convert a third down once in a while. Florida must build on its first strong defensive performance of the year. They made every tailback look like Herschel Walker until last week against LSU. Our Tony Barnhart is back in the mix, certainly feeling good, and he joins us from Ben Hill Griffin Stadium at Florida Field. Tony, how is the old ball coach down there besides that shiner that he got playing ping pong against his boss's wife? You doing okay?
Yeah, doing fine. I think the ball coach is doing fine, too. In fact, I talked to both coaches this week, Chris, and they were in completely different moods. Here at Florida, Steve Spurrier was really upbeat. He liked the way his kids responded against LSU. He likes the way that Rex Grossman's playing at quarterback. He even likes the way his defense is playing. I thought I was talking to the wrong guy. But over at Auburn, Tommy Tuberville, he's still upset that his offense was manhandled by Mississippi State last week. He said, yeah, we got to run the ball with Rudy Johnson, but Auburn also has to test that Florida secondary, particularly now that Lito Shepherd, their best corner, has a bad hamstring. He may not play. Guys, I'll tell you what, after watching Florida struggle in September, I think the Gators are getting their act together. Coach, today I like the Gators in the Swamp.
Tony, good pick, and it's good to have you back, my friend. I'll tell you one of the reasons why Steve Spurrier is so happy. He told me personally that Rex Grossman, his freshman quarterback, has many of the same qualities on and off the field as Heisman Trophy winner Danny Werfel did, and that's saying a lot. One of the things is Rex makes big plays. Watch this one. Last week in Gainesville, number 8, Rex Grossman makes a play that Steve Spurrier said was the all-time greatest play in the history of the Swamp. Now, that's big from a guy that's made a lot of plays there. Kirk, I agree with Tony. I think the Gators are hot. I think they're ready, and I think the Gators win big in the Swamp.
For the Gators to continue to be a very good team in the SEC and to make a possible run at the national championship, they have to play better on defense. That's been a problem for them. If you look at the youth and you look at the poor tackling, averaging 15 missed tackles a game going into the game last week against LSU. Then last week they only had 3, and the reason was the gang tackling from the defense and also the youthful linebackers of Florida starting to come of age and starting to make a few more plays. In particular, Mike Nattiel. He made his first career start, came up with 2 interceptions there, showing his athletic ability. As I mentioned, look at the white jerseys, the gang tackling all over the place. Here again, the defense coming up pursuit. Nattiel's there, and he comes up with an athletic interception, and he shows his ability to run. It's very important for this team to continue to evolve, and John Hoke is doing a good job with this Gator defense. But I think Tony is right. There's a new attitude in Gainesville, and it's all because of Steve Spurrier. Since they lost to Mississippi State, he's been loose. He's trying to get this young team to become more confident. I think it's working, and I think it'll work today. I like the Gators at home to win big.
I think they'll win, but I'm not so sure that they roll. They have to prove to me they can play 2 good games in a row. They haven't done that at Florida in about a year and a half.
We'll see. We'll see.
Now to the mother of all overblown controversies at Georgia Tech, where a backup offensive tackle's decision to quit and take the midnight train home has been front page news and spawned a philosophical debate. Why? Because the mother of Justin Vitakunas is threatening to sue Coach George O'Leary, perhaps seeking some kind of a settlement. The 320-pounder was turned into a human tackling dummy, punished for one too many missed blocks in practice when he was tackled by 4 defensive linemen. We bring Tony back there from Gainesville. Tony, you talked to George O'Leary, his one and only one-on-one interview in this subject. How's he holding up?
Well, Chris, there's no question that this has been a tough week for O'Leary. In 30 years of coaching, he's never faced anything quite like this. So, yes, late this week, I caught up with O'Leary, and I asked him to look back on this incident and reflect on the reaction it has created.
Have you been surprised by the total reaction to this situation?
I've been 2 things. I've been very disappointed, surprised at the reactions of that night. And basically, I think the whole thing has been blown way out of proportion as to what the intent was on my part as far as to be a teaching coach and what was really taken out of it. I was personally hurt from the standpoint of you try to build a reputation as a fair coach, a hard coach, but a fair coach, and you personally hurt from the attacks that you've taken from different media groups and people regarding what actually did take place in the football field, and what I know was the intent of what was supposed to take place. All my history as a coach, I mean, you don't punish players on a football field. They're your program, they belong to your program, and not once have I ever tried to run a player off a team, and that whole context of what's been taken from there and what's been alleged in the papers is really far from the truth.
Now, guys, even if you think O'Leary stepped over the line in this situation, I think it comes down to the intent of the individual and his track record. When it comes to the intent, I'm taking O'Leary at his word because I think he's earned that, and I think his track record speaks for itself. In my dealings with O'Leary, I've always found him to be a tough coach, but a fair coach. And I tell you what, it's just one man's opinion, but, Coach, I don't think O'Leary deserves the kind of heat he's been getting.
Tony, justified heat or not, I've been a football coach a long time in my life, and let me give you my observation about society now. Society doesn't allow football coaches much leeway now in the way they treat physically or mentally their players. And I'm going to give you my philosophy, simple and to the point. No matter what society says or thinks, I think every football coach, including myself, should treat all their players as if they were your sons. And you tell your staff to do the same way. And when you do that, you don't get in trouble, period.
Good job. You're right about that. And I think it sounds good on paper, Coach, but just because society has changed doesn't mean it's changed for the better. I think that's one of the biggest problems facing America today. Forget about sports for a second. Just looking at America, I think a lack of discipline, lack of respect for authority from our youth, I think that is a big problem. That's one of the greatest things about football. You learn about teamwork. You learn about dedication. You learn about discipline. And I think you take that away from a coach, it's not right. And I'm not condoning that you abuse players. Yep. But I am saying that you cannot take that ability away from a coach.
You got me going. I want to cover my heart. It's not like a political debate.
I like it.
But I also agree with what Rick Neuweisel told us last night in the radio show. That you just can't do that. I mean, he is accountable for a 10-second lapse in communication that leads to that.
Where's Jim Lear?
But he has a good track record.
Get Jim Lear out
500 times. That has happened
He
to
has
me.
a fine track record. All right. Vida Kunis is at home contemplating his future. The future of Jonathan Beasley. We'll talk about him. You got to stop the planned runs, say the Sooner coaches. Meanwhile, Josh Heupel, be prepared for the noise and the pressure from the Kansas State defense. And for Northwestern, Damian, back-to-back 200-yard games. Is that a bad omen for the Purdue defense? We'll talk about it.
Today's show is presented by Discover Car, proud to be the sponsor of College Game Day, and in part by Tostitos. Dig in, kick back, stay all season. College Game Day is presented by Discover Car. There's always something more to discover.
Little early Halloween tribute to the guy who picked Kansas State to get to the national title game. Proceeds go to charity. Well done, Lee. But isn't one enough? Homecoming guests at Northwestern today, Drew Brees and the Boilermakers. Buckle up. A long day for the defensive backs and those chubby guys on the chain gang here. Entertaining for fans of yards and points today. It's the Big Ten surprise team against the revived team. Purdue, that 18-point rally against Michigan, but it could all be undone by an upset today. We'll see if Taylor's troops can digest a dose of their own medicine. The fast break spread offense of Northwestern, ravaging defenses, 136 points in 3 Big Ten games. They scored 106 in 8 Big Ten games last season. Suddenly, the team that's been tabbed for the cellar has heard whispers of Pasadena. Here's Dave Rebson on the second city surprise in Randy Walker's second season.
Fast.
Damian Anderson
Anderson, touchdown!
Determined.
Sensational catch!
Explosive.
Touchdown, Wildcats!
Northwestern concocted its new spread offense after off-season visits with the staffs of the Clemson Tigers and St. Louis Rams.
I also was real fascinated, quite honestly, on how they went from 4-12 to the Super Bowl. Most of the offense are concepts that we've already had, 75%. Now, 25% have been borrowed or plagiarized, if you will, from other people. I think football coaches are probably the greatest plagiarists in the world, and I might lead the pack in that group.
To implement their no-huddle approach, though, the Wildcats needed to be in better shape, a project Walker started in on as soon as he took over for Gary Barnett.
When Coach Barnett was here, we had 1000s was the conditioning test, and I thought that was, you know, God evil, you know. Then Coach Walker comes and he says, well, yeah, you know, we got 1000s, but we got 880s, 660s, and 440s also.
At times in the off season, we look at each other and we're like, I can't believe we're doing this.
It's just one of those things where, you know, dear God, please don't let this be like the next 4 years of my life, you know. I mean, right at that point, I thought Coach Walker was Satan.
Walker has his Wildcats playing like a team possessed. In the last 56 years, the Cats had scored 47 or more points in a Big Ten game just 2 times. Now they've done it twice in 3 weeks, with an offense that's left the opposition frazzled.
They're tired of him yelling to the sidelines, coach, we can't get the play in, you know. They're tired. There's a lot of yelling, a lot of confusion. A lot of times you have players covering nobody. They're just out there and the ball's being snapped.
A lot of teams are wristband teams, and they're looking down at the wristband, and we're going.
You can just see in their body language, you know, they're nonverbals. They're breathing real hard, not getting lined up, things like that. That's when you know you got a guy in your hip pocket. Like, I'm just about to take him out for a ride.
The biggest beneficiary of the spread offense, oddly enough, has been a running back. Damian Anderson's the only back in the country to run for more than 1,000 yards so far this year. His 13 touchdowns, one more than the entire Northwestern offense had all of last season.
The offensive linemen produce holes where, you know, you don't have 10 or, 9 guys in the box every play. I mean, you have those running lanes where we're definitely where I try to take advantage of it. I mean, it produces a lot of more opportunities than it did last year.
Some things we're doing and really haven't even evolved very far with this yet is as far as how they would move Marshall Faulk around to different spots. And we've done that some with Damian. We're kind of like in chapter 2 of our offense. This is not a finished product right now that we're putting out there.
Anderson to the end zone. Northwestern wins.
Now, Chapter 3 might be next year. 20 of the top 22 offensive players return. I spoke to Dennis Francione of TCU this week. He said, everybody's calling down there, wondering, how did you stop Northwestern? He said, with speed. They got plenty of NFL talent in that defense, but if you don't have speed against this offense, forget it.
Well, Northwestern's offense is averaging over 45 points per game against Big Ten teams. That's sensational. And the quarterback, Zach Kustok, is really helping them with the passing game. Zach is a transfer from Notre Dame. They could use him. He's a terrific player. Zach, number 10, rolls out. He's had over 1,000 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, and you add tremendous running back Damian Anderson to the mix, and I'm telling you, Kirk, this is a good football team. They can score. Watch out. Cinderella is coming back. I think Northwestern beats Purdue.
Well, you got Northwestern. You know, if you look at Purdue, when teams go up against Purdue's offense, they get a tendency to get overly concerned about Drew Brees and the Boilers' passing attack. But as teams are finding out this year, if you worry too much about them throwing the ball, they're going to make you pay for it by running the ball with a lot of effect, or a lot of good yardage here by Montrell Lowe. Last week against Michigan was amazing. 126 yards and a touchdown. He provides quickness, and he's a very good complement to Drew Brees, sitting back in that shotgun and throwing the ball all over the place. And Purdue needs to be able to prove they can win a big game on the road. Under Joe Tiller, 0-8 against ranked teams. They have to win it today. I think they will win it with a balanced offense and a gritty defense. I think the Boilers will get it done. Knock off Northwestern.
You disagree with them?
Yes, we disagree.
You like points, by the way. The Big Ten, more than half the conference. 6 teams averaging more than 30 points a game. By comparison, Pac-10, you think of as a scoring conference, has 1. Plenty more coming up on College Game Day from Manhattan. We'll talk about the Clemson Tigers. The Clemson Tigers had a struggle against NC State. Figures to be a lot easier today. And do we say easy? Florida State gets Duke after the loss down in Miami. We're coming back. Welcome back. College Game Day from the Little Apple. The Grim Reaper in attendance, trying to send a message to the young Sooners who venture on the road for the first time. That is not a very friendly welcoming committee. Well, down at Duke University, the biggest news all week has been the $2 million award that a jury gave to former Duke kicker Heather Sue Mercer, with the jury deciding she was cut from the football team because of her gender. The other news, of course, is that basketball practice starts today. For Duke, they are winless. They are last in the ACC in most categories, including pass protection. Now they must pay for Florida State's failure at Miami.
In the second half against Miami, Florida State's quarterback Chris Winkie hit 19 passes, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, and you know what? That almost was the winning touchdown.
Meanwhile, in the ACC, Maryland's defense awful, missing 2 starters against a team that scored 30+ in all 6. Kirk.
Oh boy, Maryland, worst-ranked defense in all college football today. They're going to be without 2 starters, as Chris mentioned. They have a really hard time stopping the pass, and now here comes one of the better quarterbacks we're seeing in the ACC, if not the country, Woodrow Dantzler. You can run the ball today. Look for him to throw the ball as well. Keep his Heisman chances alive. And Travis Zachary's out of the doghouse. Clemson goes to 7-0 for the first time since 1981.
Meanwhile, you know, the Sooners and the Wildcats, not the only battle with coaching intrigue today. NC State fired Mike O'Kane, and the damaging loss was one to Carolina. A heartbreaking loss. They came up inches short in the Thursday night game that these guys watched last year. The 7th straight Wolfpack loss for their backyard rivals. So today, O'Kane is offensive coordinator for Carl Torbush, who could really use a win at 3-2. There's urgency right there. The Heels defense, though, has been pretty poor. It has been very poor against the pass. So can they end the losing streak? Wolfpack against North Carolina.
Boy, North Carolina's secondary is really struggling. They've been prone to the big play this year, already allowing 10 plays of 25 yards or more, and now they're going to go up against what I think is the best big play wide receiver in all of college football, North Carolina State's Corin Robinson. Lee and I had a chance to see Corin a few weeks ago, and he is a big-time playmaker. He has school record 6 straight 100-yard games, 8 touchdowns on the year, averaging 19 yards per reception. He's a big, tall target. He's undoubtedly going to be at the NFL. Now, last week, North Carolina State showed me a lot going into Clemson and battling, especially their young quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Rivers to Corin Robinson all day today. North Carolina State wins big by throwing the ball to Corin. He is sweet.
Carolina, Maryland, and Duke. Good news. Basketball practice starts. That's right. We're going to come back, get certainly back to the Big 12 as OU braces for the purple hostility in the stadium here. Chris Sims, well, he's on the bench as Major Applewhite gets the start today in Boulder after the debacle in Dallas against Oklahoma. And the Buffaloes suddenly rejuvenated. We'll look at the study and motivation coming up. Welcome back to College Game Day from Manhattan, Kansas. You hang 63 and your rival. You want to send a message. Are the Sooners back? Is Texas that bad? I'll tell you, shockwave sent through the college football world here and makes this Texas-Colorado game today in Boulder or a study in motivation, and really, for both teams, a test in manhood. The Longhorns plummeted from the top 5 to rock bottom, a 7-touchdown loss to their team, a woodshed beating. For the Buffs, last Saturday was a climb back from rock bottom after the 0-4 start, after Gary Barnett threatened privately, and as it turned out idly, to take the Buffalo logo off the Colorado helmets. They went out and beat A&M. So these teams can share each other's pain. One difference in Texas, though, the expectations were higher, the spotlight was brighter, and especially after the debacle in Dallas, the phone lines were a little more active.
The way they played today, the Sisters of the Corn could beat us. Let me tell you, this was the worst defeat. I think Mack Brown and the Horns need to apologize to us fans. This was bad. This was awful.
I hurt for the team. I hurt for the University of Texas. I hurt for the fans. It probably was the worst day I've ever had professionally.
I look back and I see Coach Royal on the team bus, and at that point, that's whenever I realized, man, we have really disappointed not only ourselves, which is the hardest part, but we've really disappointed the people of Texas and the pride and the winning tradition of the people that have instilled that here at Texas.
If you slept well that night after that game, you shouldn't be playing football if you're a Texas football player. So I think everybody took it really hard.
We know exactly what they're going through. You know, Coach Mack probably ripped those guys up after the game, just the same way Coach Barnett did us. But, you know, I know with the talent they have on the team, they'll respond back.
They're probably getting together right now as a team saying, hey, we're not going to lose like this ever, and we're going to go to Boulder and kick their butts.
We started off 0-4, and every week we said, well, we're going to forget about this game and look forward to the next game. But deep down inside, that last game was still inside of us.
It's a new game. If you really worry about that this week, we'll go into Colorado and get beat.
What we've done this week is we've looked very closely at every phase of our program to make sure that it's airtight, and we're going to correct some things, and we're going to get them corrected immediately.
personally, Mac Brown needs to do a Gary Barnett. If we're going to play like this, take the horns off the helmets. They're awful, awful.
If I threatened to take the Longhorns off the helmet, I wouldn't be at the game because I'd be shot.
Every team has their own identity, and it's the coach's responsibility to find out what's going to motivate this team. For the Colorado team, he felt like that was what was going to motivate him, and it did. They went down there and they beat A&M.
Made us all kind of wake up a little bit with that one, and once again, it just added more motivation to the week, you know, to go out and get it done in practice. And, you know, when we showed up to A&M and the logos were still on, it was a great feeling, and we were all pretty psyched about that.
All through the week, you practice hard. Through the week, you practice hard. You're doing all the right things, and yet you don't win. And it's a fine line, and you never know what it is that's going to make you win.
I think their coach really called them out, called their manhood out, and they really responded well to that.
Never once did we give up on each other. Never once was there back talking in the locker room or anything like that.
They're a great ball club, you know, and you don't want to say that's the best 1-4 team. That's because to me their record doesn't even count. They showed what they can do this past weekend in College Station by beating a team that had a 22-game home winning streak and came in there and they took care of business.
Life has been a lot better this week. Let's put it that way.
We're not very tough right now. We got to get tougher, and
I know in the next 10 years, Texas will never win a national championship, and George Bush won't beat Al Gore. Thank you, guys.
Well, you get equal time, it feels like. Meanwhile, today in Boulder, Major Chris Applesims, two-headed quarterback, will not report for duty. Major Applewhite will get the start, and he'll go the distance if all goes well in that game.
You know, the quarterback controversy has been the big debate in Austin, but I think equally as puzzling as the meltdown last week on the defensive side of the ball, giving all those points and all those yards up to Oklahoma. Now they try to rebound against a Colorado team who's beginning to find a little continuity with the true freshman quarterback under center, and Craig Oaks. Craig Oaks last week against Texas A&M, he was pressured all day long, and he performed well in his first career start. He was 15 of 25, 239 yards. And as I mentioned, A&M did a good job of getting up in his face. But for a young quarterback, he showed tremendous poise. Now, Texas hasn't been able to win away from home. They've lost 5 straight games on the road. They've started slowly. They haven't scored a point in the last 8 games in the first quarter. I like Colorado to win this football game today. I think they found some confidence last week, and I think they get it done. I love this young freshman quarterback, Craig Oaks. He is the future of Colorado.
You're right. Colorado's a hot football team. They beat Texas A&M last week, and that broke the Aggies' 22-game home winning streak. And let me tell you something. Texas got beat 63-14, and I know this from personal experience. It takes at least 2 weeks for a football team to bounce back from a beating like that. So I'm taking Colorado over Texas.
I disagree. I don't think Texas rolls over. There's too much to play for. They're likely going to be favored in the rest of their games. Their schedule is far easier than Oklahoma's, which has to play Nebraska and K-State, and that's very unfair. It's a flaw in the Big 12 system. I think Texas bounces back. That's all I'll say.
Chris Fowler, Texas.
Here in Manhattan, now, Kirk, you have one fan. You got a fan up there. It's your birthday. Maybe we can take care of that request after the show. Coming up, the Texan Quincy Morgan, the Oklahoman Kevin Lockett, the big playmakers for Kansas State on campus. And out in South Central Los Angeles, Maurice Morris and the Ducks getting busy. We'll talk about that game and the rest of the Pac-10 ahead. Here in Manhattan, we thank the band for coming out. They are wearing, if you look closely, their rain gear. You see the forecast calls for some showers this afternoon. Right now, no wind, and that's certainly good news for the 2 highest-scoring offenses here. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, everybody's been on strike lately. The county workers, the bus drivers, the Screen Actors Guild, USC's football team. We kid because we care. They are 0-2 in the Pac-10 for the first time since '71 after laying down at home against Arizona. The running game, anemic. Penalties, epidemic. This is a test of heart for a team that looks like it's decomposing. Oregon leads the pack. They come off a bye week. They're healthier, but they still have something to prove on the road away from Austin. They are 4 of the next 6 games away from home. Home game for Shelley Smith in Los Angeles, who joins us now from outside the Coliseum. What's up with your SC Trojans, Shelley? A little sketchy lately.
Hey, Chris, I tell you, if they play as bad as they did against Arizona last week, I'm going on strike, and I'm going to go try out for kicker at Duke. This is a very important game for USC. They're already calling for Paul Hackett's head. There's a website called www.firepaulhackett.com. It's also a very important game for Oregon, who goes on the road for the first time since the first week of the season, where they lost at Wisconsin. But the Ducks say they're ready to bring the show to the big city.
Let's go down and show LA what the Ducks are about. You know, we're starting to get a little bit of national recognition. People are starting to realize that, you know, hey, the kids out in Oregon can play.
We've been used to that, our home environment, which is so fun to play in. I mean, the stadium here, we're used to the crowd, we're used to the noise and that behind us. So now we got to go down in a hostile environment, someone else's place where they feel comfortable.
They have their backs against the wall right now. At 0-2, they're really in a must-win situation if they want to stay alive, for, you know, for the Pac-10 title.
I think we've been playing not to lose instead of playing to win. We just got to go out there and be focused, and then hopefully everything will come out on top.
Right now, just all we're focused on with 2 tough losses to start off the Pac-10. We just need to get a win, get our confidence back, get us rolling again, and get us back in the race for the Rose Bowl.
Chris, one important factor to consider today, this is Oregon's first game on grass all season, and while running back Maurice Morris, is averaging 125 yards per game, it's all been on turf, and the Trojans hope that's the reason why. Chris?
I think Morris, with that bad toe, will be glad to get on natural grass for a game. Listless crowd. When they were booing last week, the crowd uninvolved. Shouldn't be a big disadvantage in that game.
Well, USC's run defense has struggled at times this year, allowing individual backs to have big games. And if they don't rectify those problems, you could add Maurice Morris to that list, because Maurice Morris has the ability to do many things. He's 10th in the nation in rushing, over 5 yards a carry. We've seen him in person. The guy has tremendous quickness. He makes good decisions with the football, good vision, and he gets upfield in a hurry, and he has that toughness you like to see out of a back. And I think Matt Smith hit the nail on the head. This is a game they have to go on the road. They have to take that gritty Autzen Stadium attitude on the road. Now, I disagree with Matt Smith as far as the hostility of the Coliseum. This will be the quietest stadium they play in all year, so they're going to have to get themselves motivated, ready to win this game. But I like my Ducks to get it done and get ready for a showdown next week.
And I'll say this, you have been on the Ducks the entire year.
Yes, you're right.
I think they win the ball game if they take those ugly green uniforms with them. Those are the ugliest uniforms you've ever seen. But they're rested. They've got 5-1 record under Mike Bellotti after a week that's rested. USC booed their fans. I think that hurts the football team. Excuse me, USC's team didn't boo the fans, but they should have. I think that hurts the football team, and I'm going with Colorado in a close. I mean,
Colorado, Oregon, yeah, everybody. I'm going to boo you in a minute. Meanwhile, Oregon, you don't throw that page away. Oregon hosts Arizona, the surprise team in the conference. They're very young. They're very basic on offense. They don't gain a lot of yards. They're last in the conference. 2 road wins, but nothing comes easy for this team, not even Wazoo today.
Well, I think if you look at Arizona, everybody's talking about Arizona as a surprise team, and they are. What they've been able to do is they've been able to get a little bit of pressure off their quarterback, Ortiz Jenkins. Last week, Clarence Farmer exploded. True freshman, 134 yards. But the reason Arizona is where they are right now is because of the defense. Opportunistic, 20 turnovers already this year, giving their offense a short field. Arizona wins today, and get ready for a showdown in Autzen Stadium next week against the Oregon Ducks. Could be for the Rose Bowl.
Could be a struggle for the Cats today. Up the road in Tempe, another homecoming game for Rick Neuheisel. That's his hometown. But more importantly, his Huskies want payback because the Sun Devils spoiled the Rose Bowl plans last year.
Remember about Washington. This Washington team beat the University of Miami, who beat Florida State, which makes them a good football team. And the quarterback, Marcus Tuiasosopo, he beat you with the run and the pass, just like Kansas State's Jonathan Beasley and Virginia Tech Michael Vick. I like Washington in this game because of Tuiasosopo.
Just kind of slid that in there.
All right, you're done with Tuiasosopo. You're done with Oregon and Colorado for that matter. From here on out, we're focusing squarely on today's battle of unbeaten here in Manhattan. Oklahoma and Kansas State, they're already thinking Orange Bowl, and we have an unofficial game day attendance record, the turnstile count, 15,587. We thank them.
On Campus is presented by Outback Steakhouse, proud sponsor of the 2001 Outback Bowl.
Big game build-up continues. We've talked a lot about the turnaround, but this one fact remains that since 1993, just going back to the years that Bill Snyder turned things around here, they've still only beaten one opponent ranked in the top 10. That was Kansas back in 1995, 1-11. But against teams ranked 11 or lower, look at how dominant they are, 71-3-1. That is astounding against teams ranked out of the top 10. But Oklahoma is in the top 10, and Quincy Morgan says they'll find out today how good they are. They really have a deadly duo of playmakers, Morgan and Aaron Lockett. Together, they've produced more than 1,200 total yards and 11 touchdowns. Morgan is the tall, rangy Texan, the purer receiver, the quieter one. Lockett, the speedy 5'7" Smurf out of Oklahoma, who followed his big brother Kevin here to Kansas State. He's the fill-in punt returner extraordinaire and the part-time rapper. Here they are, running routes on campus with Shelley Smith.
Morgan explodes.
Pass caught by Lockett.
Touchdown in the end zone for Kansas State.
You got your A game?
A game.
Quincy, what's your specialty? What do you pride yourself in as a receiver?
Well, I like to catch the ball and, you know, start running after the catch. Just getting the ball in my hands and being able to advance upfield with the ball. I think that's the thing that I possess the most, that I think I'm the best at.
And I suppose you're the down fast guy.
Yeah, I'm the speed guy. I'm the guy that runs the vertical routes and stretches the defense and gets the opportunity to get behind the free safety and make them big plays.
How dangerous are Morgan and Lockett as a pair?
He got his A game.
The tandem, what do you call yourselves something? I know you think of yourselves as a great duo. Yeah. Is there a nickname here?
Well, it's another one of us named Martez Wesley. A lot of people call us the Three Amigos,
right.
But, you know.
Is it fun? I mean, is it fun having the kind of camaraderie you guys have?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're like, hopefully, you know, in due time, we could be like a college football team like the Rams. I mean, the way they throw the ball and the way their receivers get busy every Sunday is amazing. You know, for us to do that in college is definitely, you know, something we try to do.
Do they throw the ball enough here? Do they ever throw a ball enough here?
I'm not sure if there's enough balls going around, but we definitely make the most of it when we do get the opportunity.
Look out!
Who's loudest in the huddle? Who's yelling for the ball more, you or you?
Probably me.
That's probably you, huh? You're always open, right? Always open.
Yes, ma'am.
Who draws the double team more often?
Actually, probably both of them.
Yeah.
You know, they try to, a lot of teams try to break the both of us, but that's why we have a lot more receivers. That's why they call us the bomb squad, because we can go up for a wide, 5 wide, however you want it.
Now guaranteed in Oklahoma, you gon' see some cowboy boots.
Big game on the 14th.
Yeah, it is.
Well, what's special? I mean, you're from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
This is like it for you.
It's a homecoming for me. You know, I didn't go to OU. They didn't throw the ball much when I was coming out of high school, so I chose to come to Kansas State. And I have the opportunity to play against a lot of friends I played in high school. And the fact that we're playing in Manhattan kind of gives me the opportunity to show, you know, the Kansas State is a special place to me, and it's made the most of me right now.
I'm just on a good team. We playing against another great team that had coaches that was here when I got here, and I know some of those coaches, and I really appreciate those coaches that left because they always were behind me. They told me that I was going to be a good player. You know, when the time comes, they told me to be patient, and I really respect them for that.
Ain't no stopping us, ain't nothing but that Midwest we throwing up.
I hear you have something special prepared for us.
Wow, I do?
Uh-huh. You got a special rap for game day?
Well, let me see. I can do a little something probably.
Okay.
How many numbers can you name? While cats got game, 18 different ways for Beasley to maintain in the pocket. 22 yards complete to Lockett. AP ranked us number 2. There's no stopping us. One Saturday, the clock could the bus, but Coach Shiner, so respect. No need to run it up yet. We'll say that for the 14th when we play on ABC.
Yeah. Not bad. Not bad. That was good. His lyrics were cleaner than Allen Iverson's. We like that. Those guys are very competitive, by the way, as far as yards per catch. And both those guys are in the top 5 active receivers, yards per catch. Morgan 22, Lockett 19. Now the guys got to get the ball to him. Mr. Beasley.
If there's one quarterback in the nation that's not on the Heisman list, that should be on the Heisman list, is Kansas State's quarterback, Jonathan Beasley. Why? Because he's a player. He's a winner. Now watch number 18. He can beat you with the run, and he can beat you with the pass. Beasley has accounted for more points than any other player in Division I football. 134 points this year so far. Here's a special note. Kansas State's offensive line has not allowed Beasley to be touched in 114 attempts. That's my yo of the week. Pretty good football team.
Well, I tell you what, Kansas State's offensive coordinator Ron Hudson is doing a remarkable job with this offense. If you look at what they've been able to do, they lead the nation in scoring, and he continues to add new wrinkles week after week. But today against Oklahoma, it's going to be their toughest challenge that they've faced all year. Number one, Oklahoma's going to show them a variety of looks. Then they're going to play with more aggression than any defense that they have seen all year long. you're going to find their linebackers. Watch number 20 today, Rocky Coleman. He's going to be at the line of scrimmage to try to take away the option. He has the ability, great instinct. And here's one of the best players in the Big 12, Roy Williams at strong safety. He's athletic, and he loves to come up to make the big hit. Now, how Kansas State's able to run the ball with their quarterback, Jonathan Beasley, the whole key to the game. Oklahoma is determined to take Beasley out of the game. They're going to be all over him on the option, the quarterback draw, and on the scramble. They're going to try to make him win the game by handing off and by throwing. Beasley's performance will dictate the outcome of this game.
They don't spy quarterbacks in their scheme, but keep an eye on number 10, Torrance Marshall, the fine linebacker for the Sooners, wants to play a big role today. We have a tiny piece of the Sooner Nation that's found its way to Manhattan. Somewhere in there, perhaps, Josh Heupel's mom, Cindy, is driven down from South Dakota. We'll meet Heupel next.
Tradition is brought to you by Tostitos. Dig in, kick back, stay all season.
It's a tradition here. Harley Day. They'll have about 150 of these folks leading the team out before the game. We thank the early birds for arriving here. Nothing gets folks fired up like the roar of an Harley engine. Well, you like your quarterback duel to be flamboyant, flashy guys. This game's not for you. We talked about Jonathan Beasley. Tough, smart, poised. 16-1 as a starter, but still always underappreciated. Jeered so badly in this stadium last year that his mom had to wear headphones. You saw him earlier in SportsCenter. Now Josh Heupel, the southpaw South Dakotan by way of Utah's Snow Junior College. Here's Kirkpatrick, and the guy that teammates voted captain after he'd been on campus 3 months. From day one, the Sooners did believe the Heupel.
He's a very quiet leader. He's a kind of a thinking man's quarterback.
He epitomizes what you would like in as far as leadership's concerned, as far as somebody that's your gunslinger and a guy that's making a bunch of plays.
He's a strong person, a great leader, always calm, always in control, and confident, and all that all does come from your life experiences and what you've been through.
And Josh Heupel has been through a lot. As a child, his mother Cindy nearly died from a blood clot found in her brain.
You learn a lot about who you are and what you can be when you go through trials and tribulations outside of the sports arena. And there's no doubt that that has influenced me and made me grow as a person.
Josh Heupel, the human being, has a great grip on life. He understands what life's all about. He's enjoying it day by day. He knows what's important in his life, and he focuses on the things that are important.
His father, Ken, has coached football as long as Josh can remember.
Lived and breathed it since I could walk. As soon as I was able to walk, my mom was taking me out to the practice field, and I was following him around.
We told him that, there's one rule that he had to abide by, and that was when he was on the practice field, that he had to be stationary and not goofing around doing those type of things.
I was up with him at 5:30 in the morning, going to meetings, and I was sitting in the back and soaking up knowledge whether I wanted to or not.
Oklahoma's football heroes usually have been larger-than-life characters, both for good, J.C. Watts, distinguished congressman, and for evil, the fearsome pseudo-actor Brian Bosworth, the Boz. Luckily, Josh Heupel is no mere hype. His humility and sense of family values are the real thing. That's the way they grow him in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
I think I'm a reflection of the people of Aberdeen and South Dakota. I'm more of a reflection of my parents than anything. They instilled a lot of values in me, and I've tried to stay true to those things once I've left the state.
From an early age, he had that calming effect and that feel of what to do and when to do it and how to react.
You can tell that it comes from his mother. He cares a lot about people, about his teammates, and he's really compassionate towards his teammates.
My mom comes down for every football game, makes a 12-and-a-half-hour drive every weekend down to Norman.
Where they all gather to watch the pride of Aberdeen finally receiving long overdue recognition.
Well, I think that's something that my family and friends enjoy more than I do. When it's all said and done after the season, it's something that I'll be able to look back on my career and be proud of.
Heupel and Beasley between them, 171 straight passes with no interceptions. but they're the top 2 defenses with interceptions. What gives today?
Well, I think one of the main reasons Oklahoma is able to score a lot of points, 48 points a game coming into this game, is not only because of Josh Heupel, but he has a lot of talent around him. The offensive line's done well, hard runners, a lot of depth at wide receiver. The key for their offense today will be protecting Josh Heupel. I think Oklahoma will use 3-step and 5-step drops and get rid of the football as quickly as possible. But how they handle this crowd and the hostility of this stadium will be the key to this game.
Also a key to the game. Kansas State has great special teams. Watch these guys here. They could be the key. Number 10, Travis Brown, the punter. He averages over 42 yards a punt. It's very, very important. Next, you're going to see a guy, number 32, David Allen. Now, David Allen is probably one of the best punt return men ever. I mean, ever. And then number 15, Jamie Ream. This guy, Jamie Ream, could be the difference. This game is going to be close, and the kicking game will decide the game. Watch it. This is going to be a great game. The kicking game will be the difference.
Most expect Allen to return as the punt returner. Lockett's been doing a great job. Don't forget, though, Sooners, great special teams as well. These are 2 great programs for special teams. We will come back here to Manhattan. Nice sense of division of opinion right here. Predictions are ahead. We'll also preview the noon game on ESPN and ESPN2 ahead.
Today's show is presented by Discover Card, proud to be the sponsor of College Game Day. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, your home for college football on the internet.
We'll come right back. Predictions on this big game. At first, Big Ten football on ESPN and ESPN2. Homecoming at Evanston. For a preview of that game, we go to Steve Levy and Todd Christian.